should be getting started in just a little bit. Appreciate y'all coming out. Hope everyone's having a good Nib and Ink Fest. We are somehow all about halfway through it, if you can believe it. All right, I think we're just waiting on. I think we're a little bit out, so I think we're good to go ahead and go live in just a second here. I'm just waiting for confirmation from tech, and we'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Is the chat showing up in Zoom or in like YouTube comments?
I believe both are
Okay.
live. Hi everyone. So glad to have y'all here. Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing event for Nib and Inkfest 2026. I am your host for today's event, Joan Zahra Dark. I am one of our hosts for NIF. I'm also this year's Nib and Inkfest committee chair. I'm so excited to be welcoming y'all in for this amazing Making a Webcomic Site event. This is a really awesome one, really great way to kind of close out our webcomic week that we have had running here. Yeah, I won't take up too much more of your time, so I think we'll just go ahead and get going and introduce our panelists today. Ren Taylor, aka Volt Lotus, has a background in computer science and front-end web design. From a long-time passion for shoujo manga and anime, she is now working on a fantasy webcomic, Wannabe Hero. She enjoys helping others carve out their own space on the internet and the freedom that website making gives to fellow creatives. Rent currently works part-time as a graphic designer, but in her spare time she enjoys to play or stream video games, especially Pikmin, and building book nooks. Ren, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. All right, so let's just dive on in. I forgot that y'all were gonna be giving a bio, and I still added one on default. But yeah, my name is Lauren/Ren. I'm cool with both names. I forgot to add my pronouns, but they are she, her. Vote Lotus is my art name, and that's my handle if you want to follow my any platforms. And yep, as the host said, I have a bachelor's, or my background is in computer science, graduated from Ball State specifically, and I currently work as a graphic designer and artist. While attending college, I was really into Homestuck at that time, and I also that's what really got me into webcomics as a whole, because I really appreciated how the interlocking of actual like web design went into the comic itself. And I loved how artists who already spent so much of their time creating their comic would then take a step further and would have websites that like really match the imagery or the feeling of their comic as well. So that's kind of where that passion came from. I was like, oh, I'm studying this. I can I can learn how to do this. Like, wait, I can do things with technology. So that's where that came from. Um, but I don't know how old everyone else is. I'm of the age where I remember YouTube in its early days when you could actually customize the page as you saw fit. And like, some examples, especially the one on the right, Chugga Conroy, they used to customize their YouTube page depending on the game that they had. And that was a very special, like, kind of feeling to it. Um, and not just YouTube, MySpace, Tumblr. And Tumblr still allows you to do this for the most part, but a lot of like really big name platforms like Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, so on and so forth. Um, they really stripped away a lot of the customization. And I don't have any solid facts on this. This is just my personal belief. I just think that the reason they did this was to save space on their servers. People having random gifts of Nyan Cat and or, other miscellaneous things. They're like, man, that's taking up too much space, so we gotta cut that in half. They instead of like taking care of like reports of say hateful or graphic imagery, they're like, okay, no, well, we don't have to worry about modding if everyone just has a white or black background, daytime nighttime mode. And then it was also for them to streamline all of us into their vision of the aesthetic that they want. Especially like say with an example like Instagram, where it's just like only until recently could you actually post a vertical image. Like before, and it's like, no, it's a square or you're a square, bump you and what you want. We want squares because we want everything to look like a square Polaroid, even though most Polaroids I've seen are rectangular. That's beside the point. But I miss these days of being able to customize your own stuff, especially when it came to the content that you make. And so this kind of ties into what web design and what your own website could do for you. Not even just a webcomic site, but even a portfolio or a site that says, hey, my name is so and so, and this is what I do. Check out my stuff. Um, but yeah, we're here to tackle how to take care of some of that stuff today. The first step for me in overcoming a challenge is to see it from all angles. And so, as an example, when I'm drawing something that's really hard, as an example, say a background, I remind myself that at the end of the day, what I'm drawing is a basic 3D shape at an angle. It like it's either, and by that I mean it's either a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, or a pyramid. And I refuse to let those four, shapes conquer me. And so similarly with like making a website, it can be intimidating when you first look at it, especially if you don't come from that background. But at the end of the day, websites are just lines of code that are displaying info from a database from a server somewhere, so like as intimidating as it may seem, at the end of the day, it can be conquered as long as we break things down. Um, so let's go over like why you would want your own website. Some pros include looking more professional, especially if you have your own domain. Being able to express your vision as you see fit, especially to your webcomic. So say you have a all black and white webcomic, you can make it like you really accentuate that style with like the website you have. And then you're also not limited to the constraints from social media platforms because, when it comes to these platforms like say Webtoon, um, Tumblr, so on and so forth. Well, Tumblr may be the only one where you can actually fit things to your vision without other stuff. But Webtoon, Twitter, Blue Sky, so on and so forth, you are constrained to whatever they decide and however they change down the line. So even if you start and you're like, oh wait, this green, it really fits my vision, and Webtoon decides to like, you know what, actually our brand is yellow. So like, little things like that, it can affect you down the line, and you don't want to ever be at the beck and call of what the big wigs decide in their offices. But however, on the other side, there are some cons to having a website, and one is that hosting can be pricey, especially down the line, and that's something I'll go over a little bit later. Maintaining your site can take up your time and energy, especially as you begin to learn and you try to maintain. And I have a close friend of mine who I've helped to create their website, and we've both taken up a good amount of nights making sure to maintain their website and whatnot. It can also be tough to follow tutorials online as technology changes. So even when you find something like, oh man, this tutorial that I'm looking at is perfect for what I need help with, and then they're working on version 2 of a software, and like you look at the website like, oh, we're on version 10. You're like, oh, how can this really where they moved the settings button from here to here. So like there's a lot of things that can change even within tutorials. Even this walkthrough that we're talking about today, like a few years down the line, it could well be out of date, but hopefully the foundations are still there to help you regardless. And then finally, learning about web design and front end coding can be intimidating. But I am of the belief that, with all the resources that we have available, and also not just like the resources, but the community, people who are able to kind of break things down for us. It breaks down a lot of obstacles. And so that's part of what we're trying to achieve today. All right. And so this is like a very generic kind of step down of how I would go about like creating a webcomic site. So first of all, you want to choose your service. And by service, I mean, where do you want to post it? Do you want to use WordPress? Do you want to use like Comic Fury? Do you want to use Card? Even, like the kind of like it's like Linktree, but you can post your artwork there. Do you want to use Tumblr, X, Y, and Z? So there's a few options there. And there's another one we'll be talking about later called Comics Cleric, which I'm sure most people here have heard about. And then the second step would be buying your domain. So the domain is basically like buying, like I don't know if like for example in Animal Crossing, it's like buying the hosting plan is getting your plot of land, and then buying a domain is like choosing the exterior for your house in Animal Crossing. So the domain is going to be not as expensive as it is for your hosting, but domain is kind of like, oh, I want to, for me, my name is Ren Taylor, and so it's like, oh, rentaylor.com, that I want to be sure I hold this space for this name. Or for my webcomic, and as an example, it's wannabeherocomic.com. And especially if you have a common enough name, it could also be taken already. So just like be mindful of that when you're going forward. Next is buying a hosting plan, which can get pricey, but normally when you begin um, starting off with a service, if you're first, say you, um, my apologies. If you're a first time signer basically to their service, they give you a huge discount. And then down the line, that's when they're like, all right, you've been a member of us for 4 years now, so it's time for you to pay the piper. And you're just like, what if I just switch to somewhere else? So that's something to be mindful of. But once you go through that part, which is the more like financial ended sphere of things, you then go into designing your layout, adding your content, and then you managing updates, comments, and so on and so forth. So ideally, not too terribly complicated. It's just, knowing about each step of the process and then executing it. A little click, please. Oh, oh boy. Okay, there we go. So to delve deeper into hosting plans, there's a wide variety of options when it comes to choosing a hosting plan. I've used about two of the three ones I've listed here, and there's so many more. But Hostinger, DreamHost, and Ionos are some to name a few. There's also like GoDaddy, technically. WordPress lets you buy your own domain through them. And I have a list of from the Screen Tones cast, they've had a lot of my resources that I'm adding at the end. I've tried to include of the resources that I got my knowledge from, and there's like a long list of other places you can host for. But I just wanted to name these to name a few. But as I mentioned previously, be mindful of the sign-on prices versus what it could be down the line. So, for example, my hosting plan with Hostinger was $130 for 4 years with like their premium hosting plan. And I only chose premium because I do web design on the side. So I just like to have a lot of space to do what I want to. So it was $130 for 4 years. But once that 4 years is up, and like I think the next for me it's up next year, it's like gone up to $384. And that's like a 30% increase because they gave you that sign-on bonus to be like, hey, new buyer, aren't we so nice? It's only like $299 a month. And now that you are locked in, they're like, all right, it's up to $14 a month. Pay the piper. um, so that's just something to be mindful of. And like that being said, some services, like say with Comics Clear, from what I understand on their Kickstarter, they are also offering like a relatively low plan. So I know myself and a few friends of mine, we're going to be transferring over to them once that is further down the line in development and whatnot. So But I just want to remind y'all that remember it is okay to copy with the caveat that you're doing it as a means of study. When you pursue creative pursuits, there's one important step, and that is to copy. But to be more specific, this is to help you break down what you see down to its bare bones. Obviously, we want to avoid we want to avoid claiming ideas as our own, especially if we make carbon copies, but there's no shame in studying from the best, and just like kind of taking what they have and trying to do it through your own eyes and through your own hands. Um, so yeah. And with that, we're going to take a look at some examples. So these are some websites of that I'm personally a fan of, slash I've had a hand in, slash I just like the art and I follow the artists and they're cool. Um, so just gotta get my OBS set up to show that. There you go. Um, this first example is the comic called Black Sunshine. I am very close friends with the creator of this, Jasmine Zira Simone, and I also helped create this website. They created all the assets. I just want to, make that plain. They created all the assets. I just put them into place. So as you can see, if you break this down, there's just a logo, navigation bar. We put an image there because this comic kind of has like heavier themes. And then there's navigation, the comic page itself, navigation, links. They have a sidebar over here, as well as like a quick page title, blurb, and then a comment section. Um, and then to go deeper into their site, they have an about page, which they discuss what the comic is about, um, as well as like who the artist is themselves. They have a cast page, where they go into depth of like for each character or each of the main five characters. And then the archive page. So this is where it can get tricky. So for this comic, uh, the artist has a lot of pages, and so unfortunately, if you wanted to list out every single page that you have, that can slow down your site immensely. But we resolved to at least showing like the chapters, so that way you can get to a specific chapter and kind of go from there. Um, Ideally, with a different solution, this can be avoided, but this is what the solution we found so far. And then another fun thing is that they have a news feed on their site. So as you can see, they post like, blog posts about what they're going through and other fun stuff there. They also even have extras where they talk about promo work, their general art stuff, concepts, behind the scenes, fan art, so on and so forth. So depending on how much content you have, you can ideally have a lot on your site. This is a support site where you can link to your Patreon, Ko-fi, so on and so forth. And then also shout out, people who friends of yours who you want to like get more eyes on their work for. And then also an RSS feed, which this would just open to like, oh, it downloaded it. But if you have an RSS feed reader, it'll basically say, hey, you want to keep track of when the site updates? Boom. Um, but yeah, just to get into the nitty gritty of what this site was made with, it was made with WordPress with the plugins Elementor and I think the Inkblot theme, which is this will be a website that we kind of like go over when we do the demo section. We're doing pretty good on time, so that's good. So the second example is Ghost Junk Sickness, which is I believe a publicly finished comic. So when I show this, I'm going to show the idea of the first page. I don't want to spoil anybody. But this site, this wasn't made with WordPress. It was made with, I believe. I forgot the name of the service. I should have written it down. But the team initially, the website was created from Hiveworks. They have this particular studio. They've distanced themselves from that, but the website was made with Hiveworks' common platform that they gave to all their like artists under their label. Um, but as you can see, the main difference here is that there's a landing homepage, right? And then they even have like a little mini link to like their archive here. So we're going to start with book one just to avoid any possible spoilers. They have a sidebar here with the navigation bar as well. And they have the comment section and the title. And then they also have an about page where they talk about, who the creators are, what the comic is about, and a little cast page where you can get a little creative with like how you present it. So you saw in the previous example for the Black Sunshine, they kind of had it treated like a dossier file for like a military type thing, and this one's more like a kind of a techie, cyberpunk kind of style with like different stats and whatnot. The archive. So this one, um, this is what like me and my friend on the previous comic site we tried to achieve, where we're able to kind of click and then you're able to get all these pages without it overloading the site or making it slow down. Um, but this is one way that ideally down the line this can be achievable. But with WordPress, it is very difficult to do without doing a lot of custom coding. They also have a custom like art gallery with different extras. And then the store, I think. Okay, this is to their Ko-fi page, but you can see that even if it's not on your site, you can link directly to other things. Um, and so finally, this is an indulgent pick of mine. The creator of this comic, I've been really enjoying this story in particular, but this comic was built on the website Comic Fury. We're not going to go into depth of this today, but this is an option for those who don't necessarily want to worry about creating a custom domain, but want to, add more than just the basic requirements to their website and whatnot. So as you can see, they have the purple and pink motif to match their main characters. There's also, the navigation arrows and whatnot. And then you can link to the start of a specific chapter, at least from that part. Um, in the archive, you can see all the different pages there and then list all comics. It'll show more. Um, I think the blog page, it takes you to, oh, that was weird. There's also an opportunity to do a blog post section, so that way you can still update people on options. But I say that to say that there's, even though WordPress can be intimidating, there's also plenty of options for um, just getting it up and running and getting started. And you can still be fairly elaborate with this, as you can see here, in terms of the presentation. Um, so going back to this. All right. So after you study a few websites and like checking out their layout and how they presented their stuff, you would want to start by creating a wireframe. Wireframes is kind of like basically almost thumbnailing a website where you just kind of draft out like, okay, I really want my logo in the center and I want this here and I want that there. But you don't have to worry about getting too detailed in the wireframe because you're literally just trying to figure out like, okay, I liked what this person did. So let me put my logo up here, my navigation here, and then you draft it out from there. So this is like, I created my concept first, but I created a wireframe of it on the left side here, just as an example, where it's like, okay, here's what logo's gonna be, here's the navigation, here's how the comic page is gonna be set up, and then here's where any notes and the comic page title could be, and then a sidebar. And then with the sidebar, you can kind of be as elaborate or as simple as you want. I honestly, I copied my sidebar setup based off of someone else's website. So again, like even if, there's no original ideas, so to speak, but as long as like you make it your own and you're showing off your own work, there's no shame in kind of like copying concepts from others. Um, but yeah, that being said, a sidebar is completely optional. You do not need one, but it's just something I personally like to have because it makes it seem like, I don't know, like a newspaper almost. So after you create a wireframe, you can create your concept, and that can either be in whichever program you prefer. I just use Clip Studio Paint, imported pictures, and kind of like measure things out. And this is like an estimate of what you expect it to be. Things may not turn out one to one, but that's not bad. Um, and so I'm going to break down some of the pages you would expect on a comic website. So when you have comic pages in and of themselves, I do want to make a side note to say that make sure you add alt text to assist with accessibility for for low vision readers, as well as for your search engine optimization. And that stands for SEO, and that basically means like, oh, this person said they have fantasy in this. Like, so if someone looks up fantasy webcomic, you're more likely to jump to the top of the list for all that. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, normally I would say when you're creating a website and you're planning things out, start off simple because And this is something I've had to learn as well. Because after seeing like the example websites that I've seen, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have a cast page and I'm gonna have a gallery page. I'm gonna have all this other stuff. And it's just like, have you made any comic pages yet? Though, and it's like, no, I haven't. So just be mindful that it's okay to start off simple and to build as your comic grows. Um, and so make sure you have a good idea for how you want your comic page to look. This is where the reader will spend the most time on your website as they're reading your lovely comic. An archive page is if a reader loses their spot, they can pick up where they left off or start the beginning of a specific chapter. An about page where you can talk about both your comic as well as yourself or your team, as we've seen. And then an RSS feed link basically makes it easier for people to be notified when you update. Because unless they follow the RSS feed, their only other option is to follow you on social media. And then with how our algorithms work, they're not guaranteed to follow, like see those updates as they are. So RSS feed basically makes it like a better way to ping new readers, like, hey, my new page is here. Like I know you may not have seen it on my Twitter or I don't know how you be on Twitter still, but as an example, like on my Facebook or Instagram or X, Y, and Z, um, just lets you know, like, hey, come, there's a new page waiting for you. Come read. And so these are some optional but also fun pages that you can add on. So a cast page where you can talk about like, give very top level information on the your cast members of the comic, a gallery behind the scenes content. You can create a blogger news feed, a support page where you kind of list out um you can give them info on how they can help you directly or also send love to people who you're a fan of personally or your friend group, whichever. And then you can also technically add a homepage or a landing page so that way, no matter what, when they visit your website, they're just met with like the same thing as we saw with one of our previous examples. Um, and then, so now we're going to get into demo time and we're doing pretty good on time, which is very exciting because, yeah. All right, so going back to my web browser. Um, oh yeah, sorry. This was the last example. This was my website. Like it's technically still it's kind of a work in progress. I ain't gonna lie to y'all because I'm reworking the story and whatnot. But as you can see, this is a home page. But my concept is fairly close to what it wound up being, minus like the design for the arrows and whatnot, but pretty solid. So we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of creating a website. So this is my background in Hostinger, and I don't think there's any like particularly like private information on this particular site, so we should be good. So what I'm going to do is start from the nitty gritty. I'm going to go to WordPress section or, oh yeah, my bad, auto installer. So this may look different depending on the platform you're using, but regardless, you just select WordPress and then we are going to use my subdomains that I made for Nib and Ink Festival. So I'm just going to say wannabe hero example. Um, ooh, let me just choose a simple. Make sure I can get in there. Yeah. And so then not right now. Um, you just choose your PHP version. Cool. And then it's going to load that up. And like the other way to create like upload WordPress is to download WordPress directly from the WordPress site and upload that directly into your files, but that's a bit more complicated, but for the most part, most like hosting sites will make it easy for you to submit to create a WordPress site and have that built in. Um, I should have had this done, but I wanted to show all the nitty-gritty parts of it. But ideally, this shouldn't take too long. 5 minutes max, but okay, cool. Had to talk it up a little bit. And so now there's a website for it and websites, let's see. Hopefully it'll show up here. Cool. So I'm gonna go to the my admin panel for WordPress. Takes me there. And so some of the no, I don't want AI. And that's the only other downside is that so many platforms they really want you to use it, and I'm like, no, go away. Um, all right, so this is the admin panel for WordPress. It can be fairly intimidating at the start. Sometimes it's about just knowing where to go. And so this is what if I right clicked and hit visit site just as a verbal confirmation. So this is just what they gave you at the start, but we are not going to have our page look like this. So I'm going to go to the plugins section. I can deactivate these built-in hostinger things because we don't really need them. And so I'm going to go at the top and hit add a plugin. And there's at least two different webcomic plugins that I would recommend, and one is called 2Checky, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not the most experienced with it, but they've had an update. As you can see, it was last updated an hour ago, so it's been updated more frequently than this other one. But I have a preference towards this one called Webcomic, and it's with this little WordPress my below. So I was looking at the comments. Um, with this kind of like red, yellow, and blue icon on it. And so we're going to install this one. And then once you install it, you then have to activate it. And so then you go to untitled webcomic because it's just like, we just have a comic. We don't know what it is. Because ultimately all webcomics are blog pages. It's just styled a specific way. So we're just going to give it the name wannabe hero, a slug name. That's kind of like what's added at the end. So that way it can be searchable. So I'm just going to use WH, the initials, and then permalink, WH again, or maybe have these be different. Just wannabe. And you can add a description, you can add an image if you like. For the sake of time, we're not going to get into that many details. So then save, and then I'm going to click on theme here. And so, no, I don't want this. Okay, no, there's so many things I didn't want. I didn't consent to this. Um, so next we're going to go to appearance, sorry. And I'm going to look up the theme. It's a theme that is compatible with the webcomic plugin called Inkblot. Again, this isn't worked on actively anymore, but that doesn't mean it's not a solid thing to start with. Um, we're going to activate that. And then for WordPress, I also like to use this other plugin. It has a free version, but a paid version of it as well, where it lets you drag and drop different elements into it. I mentioned Elementor. It's fairly good as a page builder. It has a free version and a paid premium version, but I do really like the Elementor. As far as like drag and drop things go, I will just continue as a guest for now. I don't want to do this. Skip, 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 skip. I just want to show the good people how to do it. All right, continue as a guest. Continue with free. Is that okay by you? Hmm. I was okay. It had locked me into their like onboarding thing, but I was like, I don't want it. I do not care. Thank you very much. So we have Elementor installed and the webcomic plugin installed. So let's take a quick look at how our page looks now. Oh, all right. So if that ever happens, normally what you want to do is deactivate. But real quick, I'm gonna see if there's something um I can do some troubleshooting on my end. So Inkblot for requires these disable webcomic components. So that could be why. General. Okay. Uh, oh, I believe I have to go to plugins. No. You gotta love how it tells you what you need to do, but it's not gonna tell you where to add it. Oh, okay, sorry. I know where to go. Go to settings and then webcomic. And then you turn on character, commerce, compact, restrict, storyline, and transcribe. There you go. So hopefully that fixes this. Yay. Don't you love troubleshooting? That was gonna be a real bad look. I would have been like, all right, y'all, we're moving on. The tip, don't use WordPress. No, but basically go to settings and then webcomic, and then you turn on these components in order to make the ink block theme work. So I think that's what the issue was. Um, and so yeah. Next step is that I'm gonna upload just some sample media that I have on hand. Um, and then just get that uploaded there. All right, so in my little pack of like pre-created like assets, I have my logo, a sample page, a sample like internal page, and some elements for the sidebar. I don't know how elaborate we'll get into this part today. I just want to at least get something that looks a bit more um than this kind of like, for lack of a better word, basic setup. So next thing we're gonna do is gonna go to wannabe hero. Gonna add a new comic. Um, Title. I'm just gonna give that the title, add media, media library. This is my quote unquote cover page. Um, and then you can allow comments, you can allow transcripts, and by clicking that, I believe that's the way to um, unlock having that setting there. So then, yeah, you can add a transcript, and this is kind of like, in a way, almost like alt text, but it'll be this transcript would be displayed in the actual like page. And also, in order to add alt text to a picture, you would click on Change Media, click here, and then you add your alt text here. I'm just keeping it simple since this is an example website, but you would get into more detail than what I'm doing. Wannabe Hero title page. All right. And so we're just gonna hit publish. But what's also kind of cool with the webcomic theme is that you can add like characters and storylines, and storylines are basically chapters. So you can organize all your content within these categories. But we're not gonna get that deep into that right now, but we're gonna hit publish. And then we're gonna go to our example and then hit refresh. So now this is taking up everything. It's a lot bigger than what I anticipated, and it doesn't match with necessarily my concept that I had made. Um, so with that, we're gonna start, now that we have at least a page to start with, we're gonna hit customize. Um, and so site identity, um, we don't really want the title. We would want, or at least I would want, to show the actual image. Um, so skip cropping. So that's pretty huge. And we want the height to be a lot smaller. So we're gonna say maybe 500 and then maybe 100 height. Will it change it? No. That is annoying. Okay. So whenever that happens, you either want to upload an image at the size you want it to be, or you can go into the media section, edit image, and then scale it down. We're gonna make this, that is with, so what the height, let's make it 200, and then see how that looks scaled. So that's a lot smaller and should be a lot less crazy on this website. Hit publish and then refresh. I don't like when WordPress makes a liar out of me. Just a moment. Sometimes it's a caching issue. Skip cropping. There we go. That's a lot better. Um, and by caching, I mean just kind of a refresh thing. Um, so sometimes even when you make a change, you have to actually physically refresh the page in order for a change to be registered. I don't have any additional pages, elsewise more pages will be added here. Um, Backgrounds and colors. So we're just gonna, site wide, we're just gonna make it purple. and make it a less garish purple. As you can see, that changed this whole, it's hard to notice, but it changed the whole background, almost outline of this. And what's also kind of cool with the ink blot theme is that there's a few preset themes that they have. If you go under layout, no, my apologies. Is it ink blot? No, I haven't like been on this end of the uh oh, it's under scheme. My apologies. There we go. So if I hit that, that changed the whole width of the comic as well as the font. They got really funky with it. This is another one. And normally I've started off with this one, and then that makes it easier for you to see like how you can kind of visualize your comic with different layouts and kind of start from there. So we're gonna start off with Quiet Cry as an example. Layout, we can see that the max width is about 640, so I'm going to change that to about 700, actually 800 to make it a little bit wider. That's 8,000. There we go. Content width, that'll fit to the content size. And then I do want a sidebar. So I want the content on the left with one sidebar. And how does that change? Um, Oh, my bad. So what this did is that it created a sidebar below the page. But I would prefer for the sidebar to be next to my actual comic. So what I would want to do is go to webcomic ink block 4 layout, place webcomic in the main column. Um, so that resolved that part. But now it got rid of the sidebar. Why did it leave? So let's make this wider. And why did the sidebar disappear? Okay, this is fine. As you can see, that so a lot of this is just kind of like doing miscellaneous troubleshooting and testing. But before we move on to the other example, because I do want to spend more time on that because that'll be new to me as well. I just wanted to give a really basic way to get started with WordPress and kind of play around with it. I would highly encourage to utilize YouTube University, as I like to say, and to see other examples. And I do apologize for not getting into as depth with this part as I would have wished to. I just wanted to show you the examples of how to get like immediately started with creating a website with WordPress. So as you can see, it was just a matter of installing WordPress, adding the plugins I had mentioned, Elementor and Webcomic. And ideally, with Elementor, you can actually drag and drop different elements into, like, say, the navigation header, so that way you didn't have to code it as much. So, for example, let me go back to the Black Sunshine website to show as an example. So it was a little difficult for us to add our custom arrows with WordPress alone. So we use Elementor to create this whole thing as a section and then added images to replace the links for the first, previous, random, next, and latest links. Um, but definitely, as far as like WordPress capabilities with a comic, I would highly recommend looking at this one. And that's not just because I worked on it, but also because the creator, Jasmine Zero Simone, they work really hard on this website as well. And so they keep it up to date fairly often, and like they really like to jazz it up. And whatnot. So I know that part, like, like I forgot to mention that joke. It's like, yes, on top of all the other things you do as a letterer, colorist, marketer, and everything else, you also have to learn web design. So I'm very sorry to add that hat onto our never-ending, like, Dr. Seuss, looking amount of hats. But so that's WordPress. That's a really quick view at WordPress, but I have a really special thing I want to share. So the creators of Comics Cleric, I was anticipating that the closed beta would be open closer, but they've been working really hard. And so I reached out to them and they were able to give me a link to an example, like an instance of how Comics Cleric would look. So I'm really excited to dive into that with y'all. And then just as a side note, like I have this link blocked. Ideally, yep, it's blocked at the top. So this is first look period. So I'm very grateful to the team for letting me like just kind of get a look at what's behind the scenes. I've been really excited because as you can see, WordPress, even though there a lot of the stuff that I knew how to troubleshoot, that's because I faced that issue before. But ideally, there's even less issues to deal with altogether there. So I started off really simple. I didn't add too much content. All I did was I added media files so that they were already in here. So we're gonna try to just kind of build out what this is what I'll look like from the jump. So based on my knowledge, I'm gonna go to yes, thank you very much, Clippersnapper. um, this is an alpha version, so some things might not work as expected, but from what I was able to log in and create an account, so that already, made it seem like it was working for me. So editing a series, so I'm going to create a series, and the logo will be this one. Cool. Cover or thumbnail will be this one. Fave icon, that's like the icon that you see at the top normally of a website. Like, so you say, for example, the F, you would see that on the tab in your browser. I'm just going to use a random one. Let's go with, I didn't upload it. I'm just going to go with this one. Cool. So the title, we're going to call it Wannabe Hero. We're gonna give it a default slug, and oh, that's really cool. They have little tooltips to say like, "Hey, here's what this means." um, an example for Nibbling Fest. Full description. Please change this text low. um, image insertion, links, and sound controls will be available at launch. Oh, cool. All right. Um, I I got nothing right now. Contributors. Oh, select contributor. So that looks like if you have a team, you can like select multiple people. So I'm gonna add myself. Um, all right, and I'm gonna save changes. So now the series is updated, and now it's an actual series. Cool. So updates looks like, I don't know yet. I'm gonna start off with a chapter, add a new chapter. Oh, it looks like I don't have a volume, it looks like. This is only available for main story updates, defaults to the most recent volume in the series. Okay, so if you had like if you had like, it sounds like if you had like either different storylines you were focusing on, or like, there's a future arc or, flashback arc, that could be cool. I'm just gonna call it chapter one, CH1, blurb, cool. I got nothing. Um, Full markdown to style this, that's cool. Got nothing still. Add from the library. This is that photo. Cool. And then you can set the publishing date and use the time in 24 hours. And then you can either schedule it for a future day or publish it. We're just going to publish it right now. Awesome. So let's see how this looks with the content we've added. Okay. Not quite yet. And that could be on me. So that's all good. um, And then looks like there's a cast page. So this is where you would add like your actual cast members, and you could say, okay, main character, this is their name. Oh, wow, that's really cool. So this is kind of like with whatchamacallit, like say Toy House or Unveil, where you can actually add like the info in here already. And you can even add spoilers. Oh. So say like say for example, like the ghost junk sickness comment that we saw, it's just like, yeah, and it turns out so and so was so and so, so and so, like you could add that part where it's like, yeah, at the start you don't know that so and so is so and so, but if you click the spoiler text, you'll find out so and so and so and so. I'm being very vague because I do not want to accidentally actually spoil anything. I have a bad habit of doing that. But it looks like you can add featured media, which will be like a mini gallery for you to have for said characters. So that's awesome. Pretty much almost everything I mentioned before, adding blog posts in a gallery. That's cool. Just to play around with it a little bit more. We're getting low on time, so I just want to kind of show off a little bit more on the back end here. So it looks like you could add branding. This will be like the logo if there's no available icons, or is that Oh, this is the app itself. Oh no, the canonical name of your site, brand, or comic series. Okay, cool. So this is where you like. It looks like the global settings is kind of where you would set like the foundation for a lot of your stuff here. Themes and branding. I did look at this. I didn't have time to set something up, but it looks really cool that you can kind of set different themes for set. Oh, I didn't actually check this out. So if I check, oh, okay. So these are just like little ways to kind of customize how your back end looks. That's really fun. Just gonna save. And it looks like you can actually upload your own custom themes if you want even your backend to match the theme of your website. Layouts and pages. Yep, there's a home page, and you can show in the header footer. And that, oh, just as another note, what I like a lot about Comics Cleric is that it's already mobile friendly. Sometimes with WordPress, you have to do a lot of like finagling in order to make it like mobile friendly. The Inkblot theme works fairly well with being mobile friendly. So for example, if I hit inspect and then I chose to show it as a mobile thing. For the most part, it's fairly nice. It can be a little tough to read, especially if you have like a lot of content in this part, but it does automatically adjust. It's just sometimes you want it to look a certain way and it won't do that for you. So, but with Comics Cleric, that's another thing that they have kind of like outside the box. That's one less thing for you to worry about. This is where you would add like looks like you can add moderators and like, co-writers, co-creators on this section. This is where you set your account and you can even add your own bio. So, you know, people can see like, oh, the author of this is Volt Lotus. Like, let me see what they're about, so on and so forth. Account settings, that's just kind of generic. Like you can add your avatar, say what your role is, and documents. And that links to the actual documentation preview. I'm going to close that just in case we're not allowed to see that. But I also appreciate there's an area to report an issue and then to share app info. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard and see what we can do about displaying our content here. Oh, that changed the whole theme of everything. Okay. So that's really cool. Huh. Well, if not there, let me go to volumes. I'm at chapters. Oh, is it because I didn't add a page yet? I think it's because I didn't add a page. Okay. So an update is where you would add a new page, I believe. Chapter one, page one. I'm just gonna be generic as possible again. Um, implement, yes. And also thank you, Snapper, for being here to like give your insight as I'm like, wow, what's this thing? I feel like I'm like a kid at a candy shop. I'm like, whoa, look over there. Featured media ad from library. We're just gonna use a repeat page and then publish. Oh, okay, just page one. Cool. See you on the site. Okay, there it goes. So because I added content, that's kind of like the basic how it's gonna look like. So that being said though, with how by comparison, if you wanted to do custom work with WordPress, you have to by extension learn a lot of like not just HTML and CSS styling, but also this language called PHP, which is very difficult to deal with, especially if you make one small thing change that it could break the whole website and kind of give you that white screen of death that we saw before. However, with Comics Cleric, from what I understand, um, if I just go to their official website, it's going to be a lot easier to make your own custom edits. So if you do have experience with front end design, it's not going to be as complicated as using, um, what's the word? My apologies, with using PHP. Like if you know HTML, CSS, excuse me, and JavaScript by the sounds of it, you'll be set. Um, so that being said, like this isn't sponsored in any way. This is just me being a genuine fan and really excited for the product. So I just wanted to also show off their work and how much this team has done to, make something this accessible to the community. Um, because it's been a minute. And yeah, it's what I also appreciate. Like, I backed the Kickstarter, but once this is open to the public, ideally this will be a free thing with some, like, if you want to add on like, oh, a premium service, you can pay, but for the most part it'll be kind of like Comic Fury, where it's like, no, let's just, plug and go. So yeah, I don't have enough time to talk about other sections, so I'm just gonna put a pin in that. But thank you again to Comics Cleric, apologies, for giving me this link and for being in the chat to kind of talk about the new stuff with the website. Be sure to check them out on Blue Sky and join their Discord if you have any more questions. But yeah, just to get back to the presentation. Let's see. Ooh, didn't mean for y'all to see all that. There we go. All right, so I just want to open it up to any questions before we have to close things out today. Yes, and as Clipper Snapper said, it's not going to be free. It's going to be open source, which, as far as software go, that's like having free range eggs. That's like the best thing you can get as far as content. So that means you can build upon what they've done and make something even cooler too. Not that Comics Cleric isn't already cool. It's going to be really awesome, but you can build with it. So yeah. Open it up for any questions. Yeah, gotcha. So hopefully I was able to kind of demystify a lot of the intimidating parts of web design. And I'm also including like a link to a bunch of to basically a collection of resources to take a look at. And I'm also going to be available even outside of this to answer any miscellaneous questions. I know that at the time it can be hard to ask a question, especially if it's a specific one, but I do want to be open to providing any context or info to those who may need it. So yeah, open any questions. Do you think WordPress is too old school and unwieldy, or is it still worth trying out? As far as webcomics go, it can be tricky. Um, there are some ways without even using the webcomic theme that it can work. And actually, let me show an example of that. Um, Wait, sorry, that's just the background here. Okay, there we go. I think, let me just make sure I got the right link. Gemini Journey. Um, So this is another website example. I forgot to mention it at the start, but this, from what the last time I checked, this was built with WordPress, and so it treats it as a regular blog post, which I thought was really cool. And then you basically have it set up to where, like, they have a bunch of images in one blog post, but then you also have the next section and so on and so forth. So there's a way to do it without even involving yourself with plugins. Um, but the thing is with WordPress is that it's everywhere and it's sustained for so long. It's hard to see it not being an option. Um, it's one of those things just like, it's not a custom fit for comics websites. It's a good thing for a blog, which technically a comic site is a blog, but ideally moving forward, options like Comics Cleric will kind of like uh help help artists. You know what I mean? Um, Oh, I'll have the link at the very end. And I'll have a QR code for y'all to scan and stuff. And then yeah, I'll also give the info to the Nib the Cartoonist United team, so that way they can like send that out to wherever they need. Is the Comics Clerics Discord public? If someone could drop a link, I'd appreciate it. It should be. I don't remember. I don't want to misrepresent anything. But yeah, Clipper Snapper got that covered for you. Awesome. Um, okay, cool. Sounds great. Because I'll like get all these slides in and whatnot. And yeah, so let me go to the next page since we're getting close to the end of the hour here. But this is a link to a Milanote page. I included the link so in case like if someone accesses this like document on their computer down the line, they can just click the link. But here's the QR code if you just want to scan it real quick. It's very light at the like right now. I'll build upon it more. But basically, it has a link to most of the plugins that I mentioned, most of the website platforms I would start with, even some even I was working on this presentation on Blue Sky, I found some random places where you could start posting your webcomic that is more than just like, say, Webtoon and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna try to add stuff as I see it. I even added some extra resources when it comes to there's like a new comic writing program called Norn that is currently being worked on. I also included like ellipsis. That's a way for you to type online without worrying about AI, like with Google and Microsoft and stuff. So and then also, and most importantly, there's links to communities that I would highly encourage you to join if you're not in there already, which is Cartoonists United, as well as the Screen Tones cast, because a lot of the resources I even added there, I got from them. So I don't want to claim that everything I've done is like purely of my own brain. I just want to point you all into the direction where you guys can get help if I wasn't, um, if you want to get more in depth and get more research and get access to people who can do that for you. But yeah, that's all I got for today. I made it. I was really worried that um, I really worried about this presentation, but I want to thank you all for joining me today once again, and hopefully this helped you like get one step closer to making your website. And just know that a lot of the stuff that I talked about can also be used when it comes to making your own portfolio website, you know, because that's almost just as important as your comic site in a lot of ways, depending on the kind of work you want to do, at least. Um, but yeah, I'm available for any questions outside of this. You can I'm sure my socials are somewhere, but just find me at Volt Lotus, Blue Sky, Instagram, whichever. I'll try to keep my eye out for people who will have questions outside of that. But thanks again to Comic Cleric for letting me get like access to their behind the scenes stuff. I'm even more excited than I was before. Can't thank them enough, especially because I asked them like just a week before this presentation. Like I should ask them if I could do this. If not, it's no big deal. But they made it work and they made it happen, and so I really appreciate them for that. And thanks WordPress, I guess, for always being there in the background. So, and thank y'all for joining me today. Appreciate y'all. And yeah, that's all I got. That makes me happy that y'all y'all find it helpful. So thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. And reminder, if you're looking for even more amazing events like this one, make sure you check out nif.cartoonist.coop for all of the other amazing events we have running during NIB and Inkfest until May 31st. It lets you also check out the NIF Marketplace and everything we have going there. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.